Hi everyone, my name is Deborah and welcome to the Edit by DH. Welcome to another video. This video has been a long time coming and one that I have had in mind to film for a long time. In fact, since I think end of November. And it's just taken me a long time for different reasons. I won't bore you with the reasons, but the point is it's here, it's today, and I'm so excited to share my part 2 of Jung Saem Mool video. So if you haven't seen part 1, it's linked down below. Please go watch it. It is all about introducing the brand to you, introducing the products to you, and I do a full face of JSM products and show you what I think of it and show you my own way of using it, because obviously I didn't want to mirror what JSM did herself, and I kind of wanted to leave that for this video so that she's got her own style, I've got my own style, etc. And obviously I couldn't ever replicate her beauty skills. So as I explained in part 1, I will be referring to Jung Saem Mool as Jung teacher, because it is a form of etiquette in Korean culture to refer to somebody who is your senior in the same industry or even a different industry, someone who's more senior, who's more of an expert, who's a master in their skill set. Just to avoid confusion, I'll just say Jung teacher. And I will refer to the brand as JSM because it's just quicker and easier for you guys to understand. Part 2 is all about my experience with JSM herself, Jung teacher. I found out that she had moved to Singapore and she initially opened with this beautiful, I want to say freestanding store, it's not even, it's honestly like this experiential space whereby it's all about not only Korean beauty but just, I guess, what Jung teacher had envisioned for her brand in Singapore. It's this beautiful, gorgeous building near Orchard Road in Singapore. And it has 2 floors. So when you first walk in, it's the ground floor, or as Singaporeans and Koreans say, the first floor. That is where you have the store itself. So you can buy the products there. You can browse, purchase whatever you need to purchase. But upstairs is where they have this sort of like lounge space, lounge area. There's a Christmas tree because it was, like I said, just before Christmas that I went. But also they have individual rooms, private rooms, where you can get your makeup done by either makeup artist who Jung teacher has directly trained herself, or Jung teacher herself, which is what I did. And also you can get your hair done as well, and it's not just styling, you can actually get your hair cut. But obviously Jung teacher doesn't do that herself because she's not a hairstylist. So just to give you a bit of background, Jung teacher, Jung Saem Mool, is super duper famous, not only in Korea but really all of Asia. She is one of the best makeup artists in Korea. She is the OG, and she is not only, you know, famous for painting some of the world's famous faces and beautiful faces, but also she is and has always been an educator, whether that has been through her YouTube videos. She also now has an academy. I'm sure she has an academy in Korea, but she has an academy in Singapore. So I remember in the lead up to doing my makeup, I just want to give you a bit of background because it was such a surreal experience. Bear in mind, she is somebody I've always looked up to for the longest of time. I wasn't sure what to expect and I was nervously waiting, got sat down in the makeup chair and Jung teacher was already there, which I didn't expect. So to explain, in Korea, when you go to a beauty shop, that's what they call it, where it's not you buying makeup, is you literally going to have your makeup done, your hair done. People often get it done for weddings, events, special occasions. Maybe you're a wedding guest, maybe you're doing a photo shoot, maybe you just feel like it. So I often have had my makeup done in beauty shops in Korea, and I often try and get my makeup done with someone who is more senior, just so that they're a little bit more experienced. In those circumstances, what happens is when you have a certain seniority of a makeup artist, they tend to not prep your skin first. It tends to be an assistant. There's always an assistant. They're the ones that tend to prep your skin, maybe even remove any makeup that's already existent on your skin, prep your skin with makeup, maybe even prep the base. And then it's the main makeup artist that comes in and does the rest. So I was expecting that with Jung teacher. To my surprise, she did everything from the beginning, which I did not expect in the slightest. Firstly, I was really nervous to ask, do you mind if I film? And she was so cool with it. Like, I was so nervous. And when she wandered in, you know, like you always have this pre-image of a celebrity or somebody you've looked up to, and then you see them in real life, and sometimes like they look different or whatever. But when she walked in, she was wearing this gorgeous sequiny dress, and the irony is, I was going out for my birthday celebration afterwards. I felt like I was less dressed than she was, and she was just doing my makeup. So that was really funny. She just looked like how she looked like in photographs. She really does not look any different. So like I said, she prepped my skin first, which I was super duper surprised about. I guess it makes absolute sense, because even when I used to be a makeup artist, you need to really understand the client's skin in order to understand what will go on top. So not only to understand, you know, what skincare products should go on top, but what foundation to use, etc. And by removing the makeup, by then applying and prepping the skincare, etc., it gives you a real understanding of your client's face, skin type, etc. I didn't want to firstly yap away to make her annoyed and be like, oh my god, here's another fan, or here's another client that won't shut the hell up when I need her to be still and apply makeup on her. So I kind of just followed her lead, but she was really super friendly, super talkative, just asking me questions, and just regular questions that you know get asked by a friendly hairstylist or a friendly makeup artist, just asking me a lot about myself, etc. She also gave me information about herself, which was about, you know, she explained moving here. I think she explained how it took her like 3 years to find the building that I was in. If I wanted to be really cheeky, I would have asked her more questions in terms of like, who's your favorite client and who was your favorite celebrity, who's the most naturally beautiful. But like, I didn't want to be that person. Maybe I should have been for you guys, just so that I could have a little bit more tea. But I didn't want to be bothersome to her. So we just had like just regular chats. She obviously did ask me what kind of makeup I would like. I said I completely trust her. And on this occasion, I really meant it, because she's obviously an expert master in her industry. I trust her skill set. So I just said, whatever. I obviously explained that I do have skin on the drier side. The only thing I explained was that I do like my eyeliner. But other than that, I am happy to receive her recommendation for anything. And I was like, you can do whatever look you want. And I very rarely give the full reins to a makeup artist. I guess me saying eyeliner, even that I could have just left out. But to be fair, eyeliner, I've been to several Korean beauty shops, and they always do an eyeliner, whether it's stronger, more natural, powder, liquid. So yeah, anyway, and you know, for me, eyeliner is my signature, so to speak. She started to apply my base, obviously used some corrector, used her cushion foundations. In Korea, the base is so important. Having flawless skin in Korea is so important. You might have heard about Korean beauty standards and ideals by now. And actually, it's something that I'm going to discuss further in a future unedited video, which is my podcast type video, because I really want to talk about all things Korea, which isn't just going to be about beauty. It's going to be about K-pop, unhealthy beauty standards, assumptions people make about Koreans or Korea in general. So I will just go into it in more detail in that video, but just to give you a slight insight, people have such an unhealthy beauty ideal in Korea. On one hand, it's what makes us, I guess, the beauty innovators. I guess we're the beauty pioneers. Not in a sense that we first created beauty, not in that sense, but I feel like Korea leads a lot in terms of beauty, whether it's skincare, which I'm sure you can all agree with. So skincare always existed, but we came up with the sheet masks, we came up with a lot of the essences, different ingredients that the Western world hadn't thought of. There are so many things in the Korean beauty sphere where it was a first, or it was something that was existent but Koreans mastered it. So in that regard, I feel like we're the innovators and pioneers. But also it could be techniques that we do. We're just known for having flawless skin, and it's not because everyone has flawless skin. Could be because obviously a lot of Koreans really take care of their skin, whether that's using a really comprehensive skincare routine, whether that's facials and beauty treatments. If you look at the average woman in Seoul, which is the capital of Korea, everyone pretty much looks similar, and everyone has flawless hair, flawless skin, and is dressed very well. With Koreans, the most number one thing is having the flawless base, coming back to base. Unlike, I feel like the West, where we have more of a slapdash approach, whether that's just slapping on the foundation, either doing something really natural and having that mentality and mindset of like that will do, or whether it's like going full coverage foundations and again slapping it on either with a sponge, a brush, etc., and then going on to the next step. With Koreans, there's more technique to it, there's more intention behind it, it's more deliberately placed, it's more like small placements of makeup, and it looks like a lot, it goes on for what feels like a long time, but there's intention behind it, like I said, and it's to ensure that no texture comes up, it's to ensure that all your flaws are covered without looking like you're wearing a ton of makeup on your face. So what I often find is with Korean makeup, it could seem like they're done, the makeup artist could seem like they've moved on to the next step. Later on they'll come back to it, and then again they'll come back to it after eyes, and then they'll come back to it after lips. So there's no real point where it sort of is like, okay, that space done, if that makes sense. Whereas like in the West, I feel like process of steps where it's like base, your foundation, your powdering, your bronzer, your blush, your eyes, and then now we'll do and then we'll finish with lips. Korea's not like that. They often go back and forth between the different steps. And like I said, it's a lot more slower, it's a lot more precise, it's a lot more intentional and deliberate. As you'll see in this video, they're tapping my face, but like that went on for a very, very long time. So I think it was about an hour and a half or at least an hour that I sat in that chair, at least maybe an hour and a half before I went on to do my hair. Whilst I sat in the chair doing my hair, Jung teacher came to me to do other stuff to my face, whether that was apply lips or whatever, and then afterwards I went back in the makeup chair to have the final touch-up. So overall I think it was like closer to 2 hours. And then obviously like the average Korean is probably not taking 2 hours to do their makeup, but bear in mind this is a service. They really want you to have this sort of transformation and feel special in their chair. I was really intrigued, and obviously cushion foundation is a big thing in Korea. I don't feel like cushion foundation is as big a thing or product in other countries, especially in the West. I still feel like people are quite new to cushion foundations or shy away from it. But Koreans are obsessed with cushion foundations. You'll often see women sitting on the metro, on the what we call the underground or tube in London, and they're often, you know, topping up their makeup, and it's very common to see Korean women on the, you know, subway or metro doing their makeup, having a hair roller in their hair. Like it's just very normal and nobody really bats an eyelid towards it. And I know sometimes in London as well, having grown up there and lived there all my life, that there are those women who do their makeup on public transport, but I would say it's a lot more rare to see it in London versus Korea. And then so after they did my base, they went in with more like, I guess, pinpoint concealing, just concealing in certain areas. So again, it's not about using really thick, heavy foundation. It's foundation that covers, that has maybe light to medium coverage, but then using more spot concealing in certain places to cover imperfections. I've often seen on the streets of Korea, Korean women just wearing what looks like a blank canvas of just foundation, which makes their skin look super pale, which is quite important in Korea as a beauty ideal. And again, I'll go on to speak about that in my future unedited video. But yeah, like often I've seen women wear just foundation, and I find that so fascinating because in the West, we'd consider that looking sickly or like the makeup is incomplete because without the blush and the contour and etc. But in Korea, that's not so important. Like as long as they've got, say, like their brows done, a little bit of their eyes done, their base is flawless, and maybe a little bit of color on their lips, then that's good enough for their makeup routine, if that makes sense. But obviously they will amp it up for, like I said, special occasions, or if they're going out with their friends or want to look pretty, etc. And again, when she went on to powder my face, I noticed she does what I do, which is use a very small brush to just powder in certain areas, because I hate using a huge brush for powdering my face or setting my face. I prefer using a smaller brush so that I still have like glow in certain areas of my face. I never want to dull the skin on my face. I always love the glowier look. I personally think glowy skin versus matte is a lot more youthful, is a lot more healthy, is a lot more natural looking, is a lot more plumping, and generally just looks healthier than a matte finish. But obviously the powder is just used in certain areas to take away any excess oil, but also to make sure that there's a difference between looking glowy and looking sweaty. So that's the key reason that obviously people would use powder. So she went in to powder my face. She also used her blush on me, which is, again, like in the West, I feel like we concentrate blush on the apples of the cheeks and then all the outer edges to make it look more contoured. But in Korea, I find a lot of the blushes where I've placed it now, which is like directly central to the under eye area and just underneath. This isn't from Jung teacher herself, but I heard that if you've got a bigger face like I do, wider face, it just helps to centralize everything so it's not so big. Whereas if I had color here, it would look like wider, or it would emphasize the wideness of my face, should I say more accurately. Then she moved on to my eyes, and I would say eyes was also took just as long as base. Again, eye makeup, like in the West, I feel like we just whack it on. We just do a quick smoky eye or a quick liner and we move on. Whereas in Korea, again, it's so intentional. Everything is very delicately placed. There's a lot of soft colors used. So they all sort of mesh into one and become almost one color. But within that, there is technique. Within that, there is depth that's created in the eye. Now, one thing that she said about, well, she gave me a few things about my eyes. She firstly said that I had very unique shaped eyes, but in Korea, the word for unique is like, it's more of a compliment. And she was saying that it's just really complimentary for the eye makeup look that she was doing. My eye shape is great for that. She actually pointed out something about my brows, which I said I would reveal in this video when I was briefly touched upon it in part 1. So with regards to my brows, she said that my brow shape is not good for me. Now, it's not the first time I've heard this comment made by a Korean. Funnily enough, I had my brows done in the UK, and that is a whole story within itself. And again, I might touch upon it in a separate video. I'm debating whether it will be like a beauty video or whether as in a normal YouTube video or whether it'll be a unedited episode. I had my eyebrows microbladed in 2019. Though I had a very traumatic experience with the person who did it, who was and is very well known for doing brows. It was honestly, there's no other way to say other than it was a traumatic experience. The brows itself I thought were good. Even though the experience was awful, I thought the technique was good and I was satisfied with, at the time, with my brows. And I've had several comments since then from Koreans who are not related to each other, work in different beauty sectors, some in Korea, some in Singapore. And different people have pointed out to me, by the way, your brows are asymmetrical, they're not even. And they've also said to me, the color is too strong. Because in the West, I feel like we match our eyebrow color to our hair. By the way, if you're looking at my brows now, which is inevitable, I've had laser removal of the microblading and I've had one session so far, but it has made a difference. So don't look at it now. It was way darker than it is now. So in the West, we tend to match our brow color with our hair color, which makes sense. But if you think about my hair color, it's already quite dark. So if I'm adding more black or dark brown to my brows, it can look very blocky and very heavy, which is the point that Koreans make. So several times I've been told like you need more of a lighter color to your eyebrows so it's not so heavy and, you know, strong. In the West, everybody does an arch in their brow, and that was something I've always been taught ever since I went into the makeup industry, was to draw an arch in my brow. And I never used to have such a predominant arch in my brow, but I think through doing that, it almost like helped to shape my brow to be like that permanently. And I think that's the problem with the West, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, but because the West has such a specific look, they're not used to Asian faces, so they make you conform to their ideals of what beauty should be. Whereas actually, as much as I'm British and as much as I am, you know, a Londoner through and through, my face, my genetics is Korean. So really what suits me is more like what they do in Korea. I think that's why whenever I used to have my makeup done in London, especially even by fellow makeup artists, not all of them, some of them I genuinely like the makeup transformation or makeover that they would do, but a lot of them would love to do my makeup. They're like, I love Asian eyes, I love Asian, you guys have so much lid space to work with. And then they would make me look so drag or like a panda, like I've been punched in the eyes. And I used to hate my makeup. Sometimes I pretend I like it not to offend them. And then I would, with a heavy heart, go into, you know, a department store toilet like John Lewis on Oxford Circus and just wipe everything off. Just buy some wipes and wipe everything off, because it was almost better for me to be barefaced than have that makeup on. It was just too much. So I used to always think that maybe I just don't like having my makeup done. That's what I concluded on. But it was only until I went to Korea, I was like, wow, they completely transformed me. And yes, it's very Korean technique heavy, obviously, but for the first time, I felt like I loved what they did, and it didn't feel like too much because they know what suits Asian eyes. So going back to brows, yes, the West forces you to conform that by having this arch, and they're like, it frames your eyes, it does this, it does that. I do get it, but I feel like I was forced to do that. In turn, it actually doesn't suit my face as much as I thought it did. So what Jung teacher said, and I'm explaining all this to you so that it leads up to where it came from, what she said, to make sense. So she confirmed everything that everyone else had said. I didn't say anything about my brows, by the way. She raised it. And just for the record, every single time someone raised anything about my brows, including Jung teacher, they are very honest and direct, but they never ever offend your feelings. So they don't ever make you feel like, oh, my brows are horrendous, I need to get rid of them. They say it in a way where, like, if you're going to do it, this would suit you even more. This would suit your face shape even better. So what she was saying is my eyebrow tail was far too long, which I now see and agree. And she was saying that where it goes down actually does nothing for my eye shape. So what she recommended and ended up doing, it was covering my tail with makeup, with concealer. You'll see it in the final look. And she ended up lifting my brow. And already just from me doing this, you can see I'm not lifting my eye or skin. My eyes instantly look more lifted, right? So she was saying that it is better to like get rid of the down tail and have your eyebrow either go across or just get rid of the down tail, because by doing that instantly just opens up your eye. Now, when I showed a before and after, and I'll do the same for you guys later, to my Korean ladies that do my nails in Singapore, they were like, you know what? I never thought twice about your brows before you mentioned it. But now that I've seen it before and after, I can see the difference that it makes when your brows are lifted rather than going down. So yeah, I mean, at this point where Jung teacher had given me this feedback, I think I'd heard it at least 4 or 5 times from different professionals, like I said. And at that point I was like, do you know what? I've heard it enough to now know that I need to do something about it. I just wanted to briefly mention it because it was something that she just gave me such insight into. Because I think it's one thing to say to somebody, you know, your brows are asymmetrical and they don't suit you or they're too heavy, a lighter color will be better. Great, but it's so vague. Whereas with Jung teacher, she was like, I think you need to do it like this, and here, let me show you an example. And she did it for me and I could see the difference. So yeah, I think that's the difference. Also, just to say, going back into the whole makeup experience, just having Jung teacher in my face, there was so many times where she would get this close to my face, obviously to apply makeup. I'm like, oh my God, this is someone that I've really like looked up to all my life. It's like the most surreal experience I can't even explain to you. And bear in mind, I was so nervous in a way where she's not scary or she's not, you know, diva or anything, but nervous in the sense like she's somebody I respect so much. So every time she'd come near me, I'd just hold my breath. I'll be like, and actually they gave me a coffee when I first walked in, and it was very professional. It was in a proper coffee cup, and one of those coffee cups that they give you in as a takeaway cup in, you know, like coffee shops. I didn't drink a drop of coffee because I was too scared to like breathe and have coffee breath and put that in her face, which wouldn't be very nice. So I just left it. But yeah, it was just such a surreal experience. And for the most part, I'd obviously have my eyes closed, especially when she was doing my makeup. Even when she wasn't, when she was doing my base, I had my eyes closed. But I would occasionally like peep open my eye and then she'd be right there with her specs on. Sometimes she would take off her specs. Her specs, by the way, are like her signature look. And they looked expensive AF, but so cool. Like, I love her specs. I just think they are amazing, and it just makes her who she is. Like, everyone recognizes her for those specs. Funnily enough, she ended up going in for my eyes with the purple palette, or the mauvey purpley lilac palette. And normally, ironically, I'm not a purple fan. Now, after I've just said, oh, by the way, I don't mind what color you go in with or what, you know, shades you use or what you do on my face, I can't then be like, oh, but by the way, I don't like purple, because that is just stupid. So I was genuinely just open-minded, even if she made me look like the Joker from Batman. It was interesting because actually, apart from the purple color, she used a lot of the mauves, the lilacs, which I do really like. And I ended up buying the palette, and you'll see the look that I created with it in my part 1. But I actually really love the palette. I really love it. Another interesting thing is every time they were using the palettes, especially for the eyeshadow, what I found was they wrapped tissue around the mirror, which was really interesting. So when she would dip into the powder of the eyeshadow, she would then just dab a little bit onto the tissue, which was quite interesting or clever, because when I used to work in makeup, either just tap off the excess or use the back of my hand just to take off excess. But it was interesting that she used tissue. What surprised me was she went in with liquid liner, which in Korea, normally they love to use like pencils, they love to use powders, they tend to use things which are not so obvious so that you look more like natural, you look more like I was born like this. But I wasn't sure whether she went in with a liquid liner because she felt like that would suit my eye the best, or because I said I like eyeliner. But either way, I found it really interesting that she went in with liquid liner, which I absolutely love. I generally use liquid liner every day like I am now. So she used it not only on top, but she also used it in my waterline, which again, I would never normally do. But since Jung teaches makeover, I have been using it in my waterline, but obviously just keeping very close to the lashes so it doesn't actually have contact with my eyeball or get into my eyes so that it irritates my contact lenses. So that's been also another like interesting thing for me. I explained this in my part 1, so I won't duplicate too much in case you saw my part 1. Contouring is done very differently. In the West, it's more like precise, but in Korea, this is where they're more slapdash with it. They just go into your face. So in the West, I feel like it's more here, it's more here, here, and there's specific places where you put contour, whereas with Jung teacher, she's a massive brush, and I noticed in Korea they do that as well, and they literally just like wipe out your fat. So here where I've got like white, this is where she applied the bulk of the contour, and it makes sense because contour is supposed to hide and, you know, take away. So if you think about it, if she puts contour here, is technically giving me more of a slimmer V-line shape. And again, in Korea, the V-line face where it's like pointed here, slim top, that is like the beauty ideal in terms of face shape. None of this oval, none of this heart, square, circle, etc. Like Bobbi Brown, when I used to work for Bobbi Brown, used to say the most beautiful face shape is a round shape. In Korea, said no one ever. In Korea, it's literally like you have to have this sort of like, the only way I can explain it is, you know, like Aliens, the fictional aliens where they're green and they have the big eyes and then very like egg-shaped head, and then it's very thin and it goes down into a V shape. That is Korea's ideal face shape. So after she did the bulk of my makeup, I was actually really surprised to see how smoky the eye look was, but in a pleasant way, like, because I just thought she would do a more natural look, but she actually did a lot on my eyes, which surprised me, hence why I think it took so long. So after she did my base, my contour, my eyes, my blush, they then took me over to get my hair done. And then she said, you know, you'll be back to do the rest of your face. So again, I thought I wouldn't see her whilst I was getting my hair done. But even whilst I was getting my hair done, she would come over and start like either like listening to the conversation I was having with the stylist and contribute, or just touch up my face, specifically my lips. Now, what I found super duper interesting about my lips is in Korea, it's very common to do just sort of like 1 or 2 colors, almost like cloudy or ombre, dare I say. That's it. It's just a very either soft or bright lip. But she did a lip liner on me, which was slightly darker than my lip tone. And actually, it's a lip liner that I've grown to love. So in the West, you know how at one point there was this whole, I can't remember if it was a 90s trend, where it was like the dark lip liner and then the light color in the center. I used to hate that look. And even when my friends were doing it in the beauty industry, when I used to work in the beauty industry, like pre-pandemic, they used to love that like brown or dark lip liner and then like the light center, whereas it used to give me the absolute ick. And even where I use lip liner, I always try to match it with the lip color or make sure it's very close to my natural lip color. So when Jung teacher did this lip liner, it was almost similar to that lip look that I don't like, whereby it's like a strong lip liner and then the lip color in the center. And it just really took me by surprise. And I was a bit like, I don't know. And especially because her salon, then the lighting is very artificial. Obviously there's natural light in the main lounge area, but there's not a lot of natural light in the actual individual rooms. So I was a bit like, not sure. But you know, with this whole look, I was so open-minded to anything and everything she did to my face. She could have slapped me with a wet trout in the middle of the makeup session and I would have been like, this is part of the process. You just have to believe and go along with it. But then later on, when I looked at my lips in natural light, again, I'll show you the picture in just a moment, I was like, oh, in natural light, you can barely see it. So I think that's the point. Obviously, if you looked at my face up close, you could see it. But I think that's why it makes a huge difference with makeup when you look at it in person and in makeup in photographs. And makeup in professional studio lighting, again, very, very different. You have to make the makeup a lot stronger. So yeah, I just found that so interesting. And also with my hair, even though she wasn't doing my hair, she would come in and just keep looking and to see what the hairstylist was doing. She'd come in to check on me, to check on her, give her tip to say, give a little bit more volume, do a little bit more of this. So she was always hands-on, which I absolutely loved. She wasn't this like diva-y, VIP makeup artist where she was just like, I'll do the bare minimum. This girl can pay a premium for my service and then that's it. It is what it is. And I think even if she had done that, most people would have understood it and been like, fair dues, she's famous, she's busy. But like, she really didn't do that, which I thought was just incredible. And what's even more incredible is during this time when she was away, I noticed that there was a guy, I say guy very loosely, a man sitting in the lounge area, and she seemed to know him, and they were like, hi, you know, in Korean, like talking and catching up. I was just like, he's a tall Korean middle-aged guy. It is what it is. Probably he's a VIP client that comes regularly. Didn't know what to think. And later on, she told me, oh, that's the Korean ambassador to Singapore. And I was like, oh. And so, because I used to, God, this is going to sound like bragging, but it's really not. I used to know the Korean ambassador to the UK, and I met him several times, and he was very charming, but also he was a very important person, as are most ambassadors in every country. And, you know, a lot of people do sort of like suck up to them for obvious reasons, or at least respect them for obvious reasons. And so I know the importance of an ambassador. I didn't know he was the ambassador until she told me, but the fact that she was popping away from him to come see me still, and still like top up my makeup or give advice and make sure my hair session was going well, I was just so impressed by that. And there was another lady who was behind me in the beginning, settled me down in the beginning, and then also ended up coming to check in on me when I was getting my hair done. And I can't remember her official position, but I feel like, so she's one of the like head office ladies. So she's Korean, but she speaks really good English. She's lived in Singapore for, I think, like at least 10 years. And I think she's something to do with PR, I want to say, marketing perhaps. But she was also very, very lovely and down to earth. Trust me, having worked in the beauty industry for several years, I know what PR can be like, and often they're honestly so snobby and up themselves, like super pretentious. But this woman wasn't like that. And again, she just made me feel really important as a client. Fair enough, I was getting my makeup done by Jung teacher, and fair enough, it's not a free service, but she didn't need to be there. I just appreciated that she was still giving me that attention as a client to make me feel like I was important. So then after my makeup was done, and obviously she had topped up my lips and a little bit on my makeup whilst I sat in the hair chair, should I say, I was then told to change into my final outfit, and then I was moved back into the makeup room, the original makeup room, where she continued to top up my lips and makeup. She put this gloss on me, which was really nice. So this gloss they don't sell. It's part of a package. When you buy a specific foundation, it comes free with that foundation, which I ended up getting that foundation. So I ended up getting a brand new one. But it was really sweet because she then ended up giving me the one that she used. So it's not a brand new one, but she was like, here, keep this. You can keep it, which was really cute. Like I said, it's like it was never ending. Like just when you thought it was done, she'd be like, doing something else and then topping up and then adding this and adding that. Obviously, she's fully aware as a professional and excellent makeup artist that this is her work. This is her signature, right? In the same way, if you had pottery and they were like, okay, this is a piece of pottery. Everyone's like, great, cool. They're like, oh, it's made by one of the most famous pottery artists. Trust me, people are going to scrutinize that pottery piece even more, right? So they're going to look at the details. They're going to really like zoom in and look at the details, see if there's any chips or cracks, etc. And they're more likely to be critical about any defects more than they would be if it was just pottery made by some random person. In the same way, her doing makeup on my face is her art. She knew that when I take pictures, when I go out into the world and say people compliment my skin or face or whether they did or not my makeup, people would know that, look, Jung teacher did this. And so that's why I think there's an extra element of pride and professionalism to ensure that, okay, this has to be perfect. So yeah, she again touched up my eyes, and yeah, just her aura. Like I said, she was so professional, but there's also something quite charismatic about her, not only in terms of looks, but her personality. She's just very cool, very calm, but also quite down to earth. I also love the fact that she, like I said, she was in this blingy, beautiful, gorgeous dress, but then she had her like hair slicked back, but then her jewelry, all of it looked so amazing, super expensive. Her nail polish was just like on point, and I think it was this gorgeous like red or burgundy red. So yeah, I just was like in awe of everything, because I'm generally a very observant person, so I was just like, wow, at everything. And then afterwards, she just touched up my like powders again. She added a little bit more blush, because at this point, obviously she has to balance with the smoky eyes and the lips. So she upped up my blush game. And then when she was done, I was planning to ask her, could we have a photograph together? But I was also super nervous. And then it's almost like she read my mind and she was like, do you want to take a photograph together? I was like, yes, please. So that was like, I thought that was really lovely of her, but I'm sure by now she's used to it. People just like fawning over her. And again, I just thought at that point she'd be like, okay, thank you very much for coming. I hope you like your makeup, end of story, right? But she was like, okay, so here are the products I used. So she was taking me through it, and I was like, look, I'm pretty much just gonna buy everything you give me, which I did. Apart from 1 or 2 products, I bought almost everything she used on me. And a lot of those things I used in my part 1 video, but also I got extra things because I went back a second time just to buy some additional products. So all of those things you can have a look at in my part 1. And I will go into more detail about what products she used and what's special about each product, etc. And you can find out about JSM makeup because it's super good quality. And then again, I thought she was going to be like, okay, thank you. Hope you have a nice birthday. So we went downstairs, which is where the shop is. And I thought again at that point she was going to be like, my colleague's going to help you to just grab the items. No. She walked me through it all. We just walked around the shop and she helped me to pick out the items. She was like going through the drawers. I was just like, wow, I did not expect this in the slightest. Then she even recommended the brush set. So there's a 12-piece brush kit or set, which just absolutely made more economical sense rather than buying individual brushes. So I was like, yep, sold, put that in the basket. And then again, I thought afterwards she was going to be like, okay, my colleague's going to put everything through for you at the till, which she did. The colleague, actually it was the same PR lady, she did, but Jung teacher was still waiting for me at the end. And I was a bit like, you know, in that mindset of like, okay, you can go now. Not because I want you to leave my side, but because, you know, I just felt really bad. So I was just like, oh, okay. And anyway, so after that, I got like a bunch of loads of freebies, amazing gift with purchases, which again, I talk about in my part 1. Then at the end, my husband, bless him, was waiting outside because he just loves anywhere that has a seat, anywhere that's quite cooling or anywhere he can just do his work. So he was waiting outside anyway. And so as I was leaving, Jung teacher even opened the door for me to say goodbye. I was like, my God, this is crazy. I should be opening the door for you. And then I introduced her because my husband then stood up and I introduced her to my husband. I was like, oh, this is my husband. And she was like saying hello to him. And yeah, she just like came across like a regular person. And I know she's a regular person, as are most well-known or famous people. But in a way, you almost expect famous people to act diva-y, but she's not like that at all. And bear in mind, in Korea, she's like super duper famous. Like I said, she's well-known globally, especially in Asia. But in Korea, she's a real celebrity. Like people know her name, people know her face. She's even been on TV programs. She's been invited to it because she is a celebrity. So yeah, just to have somebody like that who is so revered but acts so down to earth. You know, people say don't meet your heroes, but in the case of Chung Teacher, I was just so impressed, and I felt like going, can you be my best friend? Can we go for coffee one day? Which I would never be that person to put pressure on someone like that. But yeah, I just was so impressed. I was too shy to take photos in the store, so after I left, it was still sort of bright outside because it was an hour before sunset or something. And I remember just taking loads of snaps, and in the photographs I could see that even though the makeup looked heavier in person and in artificial lighting, in bright natural light it looked a lot more softer and diffused. And I, like I said, will add lots of like photographs and before and afters. And yeah, I would just love to know your thoughts about Korean makeup versus Western makeup. I'd love to know your thoughts about JSM. Have you ever heard of her? Did you know anything about her brand before? If not, I would highly recommend you check out my part 1 to find out more about her brand and products. And then also, I'd love to know what you think about the final look. I'd love to know, because obviously you guys, if you've been following me on my channel for some time, you'll know how I normally do my makeup, how I normally apply makeup and what I do to my face. But obviously, even in my eyes, I can see I looked considerably different in her makeover. So yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts. And yeah, I still can't believe she did my face. It was such an honor, such an incredible, generous gift. Who knows, maybe I'll get makeup done by her again in the future, if my wallet can take it. Yeah, I just had so much fun, and I just wanted to share this experience with you. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know your thoughts down below. I hope to see you on the next video. In the meantime, take care.